Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Jeff Smith. Thank you for lending me some of your time. We sincerely appreciate it. If you enjoy your visit, we ask that you hit the like button and subscribe. In this episode, I will be discussing two things that appear to be missing in the world today. According to a man who is arguably one of the wisest men to ever walk the face of the earth, outside of Jesus, of course, these two things are so important, you should hang them about your neck and engrave them on the tablets of your heart, so you never lose sight or thought of them, so you are never found guilty of failing to practice them. I entitled this message, Today, They're Missing. With that, I'll get on with it. Man, the world is definitely a different place in comparison to when I was growing up. Sadly, the changes we are witnessing are not for the better. When conversing with friends and family members, I often say, the world is becoming an ugly place. I have yet to hear anyone challenge me on my assessment. When I was growing up, people seemed to make a conscious effort to be cool to others they encountered. As humans, we've always been selfish. Maybe we just weren't as comfortable showing it back then. Today, people are selfish, self-centered, egocentric, egomaniacal, and seemingly possess the false impression that it's all about them. That kind of mindset can lead to a whole boatload of trouble. It can lead to impatience, intolerance, anger, hostility, hatred, a skewing of one's values, dishonesty, critical and harsh communication, abusive behavior, violence, and maybe even murder. Look at the world around us. The Bible speaks about what we're witnessing today on a global level. As I've stated in other messages, I knew it was coming. I suppose I didn't envision it to be quite like this. I certainly didn't envision its escalation to occur so quickly or it to become so rampant so quickly. It seems like the last decade ushered in a radical change in the way people think, talk, and behave. On top of the list of things to which I suggested the current societal mindset can lead, we have DEI, pronouns, and upwards of 50 genders. Life is tough enough without that extraneous nonsense. No disrespect is intended for the people who embrace it, but it's incomprehensible how anyone can accept that line of thinking. I believe you have to blame the media for much of the confusion and division we are witnessing today. I feel sorry for my grandkids and the youth in America. I can still remember what it was like growing up. I believe most adults would agree adolescence was a challenging period in their life. We struggle to find our true identities and how we fit in. We believe our life experiences are unique and therefore lead to our parents misunderstanding our situation or us. Consciously or otherwise, we end up ostracizing ourselves from the ones who know what's best and love us most. Ironically, that adds to the confusion and potential feelings of helplessness and hopelessness. Couple all that with wokeness being inaccurately redefined, people thinking they're animals and behaving as such, gender confusion, so-called gender-affirming pharmaceuticals or surgeries for kids who aren't old enough to make that life-altering decision, school administrations allowing inappropriate material in our schools and inappropriate conversations without parental consent, and so on. And you clearly recognize an assault has been waged against our children. God help us. Before I get into the scripture that is at the heart of this message, allow me to share with you a bit of information about the author. I believe it will serve to support the value and validity of his statement or admonition. His name was Solomon. He was the son of King David. He was his successor to the throne. He was young when the succession occurred. Let's check out 1 Kings 3, 5 through 13. It reads, "The Lord appeared to Solomon one night in a dream and told him, 'Ask me for whatever you want, and I'll give it to you.' So Solomon said, 'You have demonstrated abundant, gracious love to your servant David, my father, as he lived in your presence, truthfully, righteously, and uprightly in his heart. In addition, you have kept on showing this abundant, gracious love by giving him a son to sit on this throne today. Now, Lord, my God, you have set me as king to replace my father David, but I'm still young. I don't have any leadership skills. Your servant lives in the midst of your people that you have chosen, a great people that is too numerous to be counted. So give your servant an understanding mind to govern your people, so I can discern between good and evil. Otherwise, how will I be able to govern this great people of yours?' The Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this. So God told him, 'Because you asked for this, and you didn't ask for a long life for yourself, and you didn't ask for the lives of your enemies, but instead you've asked for discernment, so you can understand how to govern, look how I'm going to do precisely what you ask. I'm giving you a wise and discerning mind, so that there will have been no one like you before you, and no one will arise after you like you. I'm also giving you what you haven't requested, both riches and honor, so that no other king will be comparable to you during your lifetime.'" The King James Version renders Solomon's statement about his age, "I am but a little child." As a result of different interpretations of the Hebrew word child, there has been considerable speculation about Solomon's age at the time he became king. I've heard or read speculation about his age to be anywhere from 12 to 30 years old. The Bible doesn't specifically state his age, but it does provide some other information that can narrow it down for us. Solomon reigned for 40 years. His son Rehoboam was 41 when he assumed his position on the throne. That means he was a year old when Solomon became king. With that in mind, it's doubtful he was a child, as we define it, when he assumed the throne from his father David. He would have been required to be past the age of puberty in order to produce offspring. Bear in mind, at that time and in that culture, an individual's coming of age or the transition to adulthood was believed to occur at 12 or 13 years of age. Couple that with the word that the King James translated as child, and you can narrow it down a bit more. According to the Strong's Hebrew and Greek dictionaries, the word translated child is defined as being from the age of infancy to adolescence. That said, Solomon was likely around 12 to 19 years old when he became king. I'm speculating, as others have done when making that assertion. Once again, when you consider he had a son at the time and the age required to make that happen, it makes sense. Furthermore, an individual being older than 19 would no longer be viewed as an adolescent according to their definition then and our definition today. Now you might be thinking I wasted your time with all of that. I shared that with you to enable you to make a better comparison between Solomon and any kid in America today. I shared that with you so you could contemplate the likelihood or unlikelihood, as the case may be, for any kid in America today who is 12 to 19 years of age, assuming any throne other than the porcelain throne. It's not to suggest kids today don't possess any potential. They do. Unfortunately, they are required to navigate through the challenges of adolescence in addition to the current progressive and new age narrative and influences I previously described. No doubt that is confusing and distracting. Governing a kingdom seems unlikely with all that on your plate. The world is going crazy. Who would have ever thought kids and adults alike would be greeted with hostility for failing to treat someone as if they were an animal because the person identifies as such? Who would have ever thought kids and adults alike would encounter hostility for failing to recognize another's gender preference or pronouns when their gender or sex is obvious? If you visit a friend who has a dog or visit a dog park, one can quickly ascertain the gender or sex of a dog, regardless of the thoughts the dog might entertain about their preferences. Is it really that different for people? Yet, demands are being made for us to respect absurd and aberrant preferences. My granddaughters, who are not even in high school, inform me they can say hello to someone and receive a stink eye accompanied by a hiss or bark because a young person thinks they are a cat or dog and prefer to be treated that way. I suppose we should provide litter boxes and periodic trips outside to allow the opportunity for them to relieve themselves. I know that's crude, but how far are we going to allow this to go? Rather than conforming, we should be transformed by the Spirit of God. Rather than accepting irrational thinking and aberrant behavior, we should provide godly direction to those who are confused by what they are seeing in the world today. It's ugly and demonic. We have to take a stand. I'll get to 2 ways we can do that in a moment. I digressed a bit. Let me get on with it. I primarily shared the information about Solomon so you could recognize the miracle God performed in his life at the initiation of his reign. Allow me to share with you one more bit of information about Solomon so you clearly see there was something extraordinary about him, and thus his word should be seriously considered. 1 Kings 4:29 through 34 reads, God gave Solomon wisdom and great discernment. His insights were as numerous as sand on the seashore. Solomon was wiser than any of the Eastern leaders and wiser than anyone in Egypt. He was wiser than anyone of his day, wiser than Ethan the Ezrahite, Heman, and wiser than Mahal's sons Kalkal and Darda. His reputation was known throughout the surrounding nations. Solomon wrote 3,000 proverbs and 1,005 songs. He described trees, everything from cedars that grow in Lebanon to hyssop that grows on a garden wall. He described animals, birds, reptiles, and fish. People came from everywhere to hear Solomon's advice. Every king on the earth heard of his wisdom. As I previously stated, it can be argued that Solomon was the wisest man outside of Jesus to walk the face of the earth. With that established, it's probably worthwhile to check out what he had to say. That brings us to the scripture upon which this message is based. It brings us to the scripture that, if heeded, would contribute to a radical change in society for the better. It's found in Proverbs 3:3 through 4. It reads, Do not let mercy and truth leave you. Fasten them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will find favor and much success in the sight of God and humanity. Allow me to share with you an excerpt from Adam Clarke's commentary on verse 3. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Let these be thy constant companions through life. Bind them about thy neck. Keep them constantly in view. Write them upon the table of thine heart. Let them be thy moving principles. Feel them as well as see them. All of us know what truth is, in spite of the fact that you don't hear it much today. No doubt a fewer number of people know what mercy is. Simply put, mercy is not getting what you deserve. You've likely witnessed how convicted criminals, when standing before a judge for sentencing, often plead for mercy before the sentence is handed down. In essence, they are saying, you have the power, please don't give me what I have coming to me. You will recall I entitled the message, Today, They're Missing. Mercy and truth are invaluable commodities that few possess. Solomon saw them as possessing such value that he admonished his son in Proverbs chapter 3 to wear them like a necklace and write them on the tablets of his heart. Wear them like a necklace so they remain in view and you are perpetually mindful of them. Write them on the tablets of your heart so you habitually act accordingly. Make them your go-to choice of action or response. Albert Barnes had this to say about verse 3 in his commentary. He wrote, "The two elements of a morally perfect character, mercy, shutting out all forms of selfishness and hate, truth, shutting out all deliberate falsehood, all hypocrisy, conscious or unconscious." The words that follow possibly refer to the Eastern custom of writing sacred names on pieces of papyrus or parchment and wearing them around the neck as charms and talismans against evil. Although I am uncertain if one holds greater significance than the other, I'm going to speak about truth and honesty first. I've chosen that approach because dishonesty, partial truths, fake news, or as I call them, outright lies, can inspire irritation, frustration, and anger, thereby evoking an unmerciful response in us. If you're like me, you absolutely hate dishonesty. Few are the things in life that can bring me from zero to off the charts if I'm not careful and mindful of pursuing the mind of Christ rather than my carnal mind. I'd venture to say none of us are free of lies. All of us at one point in our lives or another have told a lie. Obviously, some more than others, and by virtue of its frequent practice, some are better at it than others, if being an effective liar can be classified as better. When our daughter was younger, I told her, if you do something wrong, there may or may not be the imposition of some form of discipline, which may or may not be unpleasant. Generally, it was unpleasant. If you lie about what you've done, you can guarantee you will be the recipient of some form of discipline. I hate lying with a passion. Yet, no one has asked my opinion about it. Lies flow and fly from the lips of so many people. People lie to cover up their faults, failures, and shortcomings, and improprieties. People lie to make themselves look better or to compensate for insecurities. People lie to avoid the consequences of the poor choices they make. People lie to get their way or to achieve sordid gain. Some people lie just for the sake of lying. It's habitual. They can't help themselves. Lying has become increasingly obvious in the political arena. You wonder if some politicians ever tell the truth. It doesn't matter on which side of the political aisle you have chosen to sit. Lies are now part of the political vernacular. I am blown away by what I hear in committee meetings, campaign speeches, and special hearings. I often find myself asking, are they that dedicated to the advancement or furtherance of their political party that they will compromise, lie, and do just about anything to ensure they remain in power? Or are lies so commonly spewed from their mouths and the mouths of their colleagues that they can't tell the difference? I can't tell you the number of times I've asked out loud to a lying politician or lying member of the liberal mainstream media while they're telling lies on the TV, do you actually believe that? How many people in politics and in the media said Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation? Yet, it became clear the other day that Hunter Biden's gun conviction was largely based on the contents of that laptop. Joe Biden has repeatedly stated that he didn't know anything about Hunter's business activities and that of his own brother. Yet, there are pictures and other material on that laptop and on text messages that clearly demonstrate the opposite is true. There is evidence on what Trump has referred to as the laptop from hell that reveals how companies were built by Biden family members for the purpose of laundering money derived from foreign and domestic bad actors. People like Robert De Niro, the ladies on The View, anchors on CNN, MSNBC, ABC, other news show hosts, political commentators and political writers and so-called journalists have strongly suggested we can't let Trump get into office because he will be a dictator and he will never leave. Oh, okay. What about when he was in office and he did leave? Where's the validity or truth in their statement? Many have readily and loosely stated that Trump is a transphobe, homophobe, xenophobe, misogynist, and other vile names. Yet they have no supporting evidence to make such claims. They lie, and they lie, and they lie. Trump has employed many black people and other people of color. They have suggested he was a great boss. Trump has appointed many women who have been successful in various roles in his companies. The list goes on and on about the positive things Trump has done, but the liberal progressive media will never tell the truth. They lie, and they lie, and they lie. Recently, Dr. Phil interviewed Donald Trump. At some point following the interview, an audience of Dr. Phil's show viewed it. One black woman in the audience said the interview gave her a different interpretation of Trump. She further stated, and not seeing him more actually kind of hurts people on judging him. In closing, she said, if that's what the media wants to do, they're doing a very good job at it. Essentially, she suggested the media has been lying and hiding the truth from its viewers or readers. The other day, Jimmy Kimmel and some other celebrities gathered together for a fundraising event in honor of Joe Biden. At one point, Barack Obama and Joe Biden were on stage together. It came time for them to exit the stage. Unfortunately, because Biden has experienced significant cognitive decline, it appeared as though he froze for a moment. He looked lost. Obama gently grabbed him around his left wrist and forearm. Once he gained his attention, he led him off stage with his hand on his back. Administrative staff members and pundits said the right manipulated the video and misinterpreted what transpired. It was suggested that the crowd was cheering and Biden simply wanted to hear what they were saying. Maybe he did, but the manner in which Obama handled him was reminiscent of how I have escorted confused, elderly, and unsteady patients back to their rooms or while walking with them in hospital hallways. I spoke about this in another message. I don't like people making fun of Joe Biden. It's not funny. I don't wish cognitive decline on anyone. However, you can't ignore it or attempt to cover it up. And the latter is precisely what his family and administrative staff have been doing. Shame on them. That's not fair to him or the people of this country. Tell the truth. His current condition, whether inadvertently or otherwise, is making a mockery of him and this country on the world stage. If you saw the recent debate between Biden and Trump, you know precisely what I'm talking about. At times, Biden seemed lost. He stared off in different directions with his mouth gaping open when the moderators were directly in front of the two candidates. He looked confused. Some of his responses didn't make sense. It was sad to watch. The mainstream liberal media has claimed conservatives or Republicans were altering videos and embellishing stories when they publicized Biden's gaffes. They couldn't cover it up in the debate. Sadly, Biden's cognitive decline was plain for all to see. Our eyes weren't lying to us. Interestingly enough, the same videos and stories the liberal mainstream media previously claimed were altered by conservatives or Republicans in an effort to make Biden look bad were the same videos and stories they are now using to point out his obvious cognitive decline. I was blown away when I saw how readily and promptly they flipped the switch. I shouldn't have been surprised. They've been attempting to gaslight the American people for a long time. Like I said, they literally lied about the content of videos and stories, claiming they were altered by conservatives or Republicans, only to use the same videos and stories a few days later, stating the same things conservatives and Republicans have been saying since before Biden took office. I could go on, but you likely know what I'm talking about. It's hard to find truth in the words of so many people. That's sad. If Christians fail to be honest, who will be? We have an obligation to live honest and truthful lives. The Lord despises lies and dishonesty. One of the 10 Commandments speaks about dishonesty and bearing false witness. Exodus 20:16 reads, "Never lie when you testify about your neighbor." Proverbs 19:9 tells us, "A lying witness will not go unpunished. One who tells lies will die." In Revelation 21:5-8, you see a contrast being made between those who are victorious over sin by the power of his Spirit and liars, as well as those who commit other forms of sin. It reads, "The one sitting on the throne said, 'I am making everything new.' He said, 'Write this. These words are faithful and true.' He said to me, 'It has happened. I am the A and the Z, the beginning and the end. I will give a drink from the fountain filled with the water of life to anyone who is thirsty. It won't cost anything. Everyone who wins the victory will inherit these things. I will be their God, and they will be my children. But cowardly, unfaithful, and detestable people, murderers, sexual sinners, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars will find themselves in the fiery lake of burning sulfur. This is a second death." In the face of seemingly perpetual lying, while in the midst of constant examples of mistruths and fake news, and while enduring the seeming pressure to be a liar like they are, take a firm stand against it. Unbeknownst to many, the truth will set people free. If I'm being transparent, and I should, if I'm completely honest with you, and in light of the content of this message, it is imperative that I am, I must tell you that at times, my hatred for lying makes it difficult for me to demonstrate the other quality Solomon mentioned. I feel comfortable with honesty and truthfulness. I practice it. Truthfulness is a big deal to me, but I'm not always so effective at demonstrating mercy. I might even entertain the idea of providing Jesus a helping hand to deal with the dishonesty and lies we see perpetrated in the world today, even though vengeance is his. I'm just kidding, but it can be frustrating. I'm confident I'm not the only one who despises dishonesty and lying to the extent I do. As Christians, we are called to a higher standard. At the very least, we are called to remain ever mindful of all the love, grace, and mercy the Lord has demonstrated to us. He has heaped mercy on me in abundance. I have made some colossal mistakes in my life. As a result, some bad things should have been coming my way. What goes around comes around. What you sow, you will also reap. Fortunately, the Lord maintains an abounding surplus of mercy. It can never be tapped out. In many cases, because I cried out to him for forgiveness and mercy, I did not get what I had coming. Therefore, mercy, like truth, should be worn about my neck and written on the tablet that is my heart. Christian or not, there isn't anyone who can't say that. If you're not a Christian, the fact that you haven't already reaped the wages of the sin in your life, which is death, is profound mercy. As Christians, it behooves us to follow the direction provided by Solomon. Wear mercy and truth about your neck and write them on the tablets of your heart. If we don't, who will? Like I said, it's easy to get caught up in the lying because it's so prevalent. Like I said, it can be difficult to demonstrate mercy when confronted by so many lies. It's frustrating and annoying. It can work your last nerve. However, mercy breeds patience. While maintaining a willingness to refrain from giving a person what they have coming to them, You find it much easier to demonstrate patience in most situations. Frankly, that's never been a forte I could boast about. I'm confident my willingness and desire to demonstrate more mercy will result in an improvement in my level of patience. Mercy also breeds humility. When you remained mindful of all the mercy God has demonstrated to you, it lends to you being merciful to others. It lends to you not thinking so highly of yourself in comparison to the reason or reasons you should demonstrate the same mercy to others. Mercy is one of many beautiful character qualities of God. And because a portion of His Spirit dwells within all sincere Christians, it's a character quality we should not only possess, but demonstrate. Like I said, it brings with it other wonderful character qualities. In closing, check out what Micah 6:8 has to say about the matter. It reads, "You mortals, the Lord has told you what is good. This is what the Lord requires from you, to do what is right, to love mercy, and to live humbly with your God." Be honest and truthful. Be different than what you see and hear in the world today. Let truth reign supreme in your life. After all, if you're a Christian, the Spirit of the way, the truth, and the life lives in you. Love mercy. Wear it like a necklace. Perpetually demonstrate it as though it is written on the tablet that is your heart, for from it spring humility and patience. Now, I was going to end the message here. However, on July 13th, a horrible event took place that for several reasons warrants a comment. One of the primary reasons I chose to make a comment today and to continue the message for a bit longer is because what occurred is a perfect example of what I've been speaking about. On that day, a 20-year-old man toting an AR-style rifle opted to make an attempt at assassinating Donald Trump. Thank God he was unsuccessful. Honestly, if you look at the footage, you will promptly recognize why I say, thank God. It was because of divine intervention that Trump made it out of there with only a gunshot wound to his right ear. It was because of divine intervention that Trump made it out of there alive. If he had not rotated his head only a few degrees to the right, a millisecond before the bullet made contact, the bullet would have seriously damaged his brain and likely killed him. I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on. That's a horrible thing to consider. Many thoughts came to my mind while witnessing the event live. Before I knew he was okay, I cried out to God for Donald Trump and his family. I thought, how could this happen? At some point, I began to consider the shooter. I wondered what in the world a 20-year-old man who would normally have a long life ahead of him could possibly be thinking that would prompt him to arrive at the conclusion that his only alternative was to take the former president's life. This message came to mind. You see, it's very likely he had been listening to the lies about Donald Trump that had been spewed with the frequency and rapidity of a machine gun. Outside of the racist, xenophobe, homophobe, misogynist accusations many people have made about Trump, it's very likely the shooter had heard the lies that Trump is like Hitler, the lie that he's an existential threat to our democracy, the lie that he will lock people up who don't agree with him, the lie that he will be an authoritarian dictator. The reality is that none of that occurred when Trump previously occupied the White House, and it won't if he becomes president again. But politics really don't matter when considering this horrific incident. What are we doing? Is this where we are in American society? Is this our new approach to someone who has a difference of opinion from ours? Sadly, rather than offering mercy for what the shooter likely believed about Trump, he chose to make every effort to take his life. Regardless of recognizing that his life would likely be taken, He, like a kamikaze pilot, opted to shoot the former president. Do you recognize what can occur without truth and mercy being at the forefront of our communication and behavior? Do you recognize the magnitude of the evil that is birthed when one chooses to lie and to demonstrate ruthlessness, cruelty, and inhumanity, rather than consistently speaking the truth and demonstrating mercy? Do you now have a better appreciation for why Solomon strongly suggested truth and mercy should be worn about the neck and written on the tablets of our hearts? Failure to do so inspires all manner of evil. I'll end it there. I do thank you for your time. God bless you and have a great week. Thank you for joining us on For the Sake of the Call. We sincerely hope and pray this and every episode is a blessing to you. At the very least, we hope and pray you find it thought-provoking. We consider it an honor to serve our Lord by serving you. If you found something of value with this episode, we ask that you comment, hit the like button, and subscribe. We also ask that you click the notification button so you can be informed of upcoming episodes. If you would like to contact us, please see the link in the description below. May God richly bless you, and may your relationship with Him grow each and every day.